Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. I'm back. I'm back with What If Isagi Was A Cyborg Part 2. And as always, if you enjoy, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'm not going to waste that much more of your time. If you're watching, or if you're listening to this on Spotify, leave a follow and a 5-star rating. And let's get right into the video. Let's get it. Isagi Yoichi has defeated one team. And he's shown that he's capable in terms of passing and scoring. And it seems like he is just an all-around elite talent. And it seems like Jinpachi Ego's little experiment is going exactly how he planned it. In which Jinpachi Ego would continue to kind of take interest in Isagi, watching very, very closely as he takes on his very next game. The very next game would be against Team Y. Team Z versus Team Y, and they'd be going against the main threat of Nico and Okawa. Someone that has insane passing ability and someone that is extremely quick. But with Isagi's vision and his way of seeing the field, well, he has full intentions of shutting down whatever coordination they decide to use. So when the game would begin, Nico and Okawa would immediately try to link up on a deep pass. And that deep pass would actually get there, but as Isagi sees it all occurring, he realizes he'll never allow it to happen again. But he can still recover. He begins to sprint down the field as fast as possible, and as he basically catches up to Okawa, all he needs is one person to slow him down just a little bit, in which one person on defense by the name of Raichi would be able to get in front of him just a little bit, and once he gets in front of him just a little bit, it slows him down just enough for Isagi to slide toward the ball, kicking it straight out of bounds. This would put them in an interesting position, or Team Y in an interesting position, because they're not used to playing from here. Once they start and they try to actually coordinate from here, it seems like things begin to collapse relatively fast. Isagi steals the ball from one of them very quickly and begins to take off at full speeds. Team Y would watch as Isagi darts by them, and he would easily get by every single defender that's trying to stand in front of him, and he would shoot darting the ball at insane speeds. And it seemed as if, well, there was really no stopping him. Isagi would easily score a goal, and everything would begin to avalanche, as if every single thing begins to fall in place very quickly. Nico and Okawa would try to hook up a couple more times through some long-range passing, but even their chemistry that they tried to build in such a short amount of time just straight up did not work. And frankly, they would fall behind very fast. Isagi would begin to get everyone involved with Kunigami and Bachira and many others, and it really did seem like it was real impossible for anybody to kind of keep up with the team of Isagi and Bachira and Kunigami. At least this team specifically in Team Y, because their defensive capabilities were kind of bad. And yeah, they did try to play a little bit of keep away ball to limit how much scoring the Team Z was doing. But even with that said, they would lose by a large margin, and the game would just be an excessive loss. And Isagi's team would head off and celebrate in their own way, and they would be happy to take the win, being that they are now 2-0. But something would happen in Game 3, or more specifically after Game 3, that would be a cause for concern. Because going into Game 3, Isagi would get Chiguri to start playing the game, because he introduces the fact that he was extremely hurt, and that it took a miracle in a way, a miracle to find someone to actually help him out, and now he's sacrificing everything to give it his all to become the best footballer ever, in which this would allow him to basically embrace football once again and take on the Wanama twins. Now, this game isn't necessarily the problem, but Isagi would play more of the role of defender slash facilitator in this game specifically, and he would allow them to score goal after goal, gaining some confidence. But toward the end of this game, he would realize that his legs and his body itself felt slower, as if he couldn't run at full speeds and as if he couldn't really move to his fullest capabilities. They're luckily able to defeat the Wanama twins, but after beating them in this game, everyone would be celebrating, but Isagi would be called to a different room. Isagi would be in this so-called room, and he would hear a voice immediately come up on the screen. It's Jinpachi Ego. Jinpachi Ego would speak to Isagi, telling him exactly what's going on with his body, and that his legs seem to be slightly malfunctioning. He's not 100% sure why, but it seems as if the technology that they've been using is kind of out of maintenance, and they don't necessarily have the money to actually do more and help him even more. In which Isagi asks what is he supposed to do, in which, well, Jinpachi Ego says that his legs work exactly the same, that they work exactly how they would normally work if they were human legs. He just does not have the, well, enhancements that he's been using for the last, well, 3 games. And Isagi is kind of taken back by this. He asks about his vision, in which Jinpachi Ego says that that may or may not disappear as well. He's not so sure, but the funding for the program that he's been using and the funding that he's been basically equipped to is kind of falling short just a little bit, and that he's going to have to basically hang on to his side of the bargain and actually kind of get involved in some sort of funding, which Isagi questions what that even means, but Jinpachi Ego tells him not to worry about it right now, at least for the moment. Isagi would watch as the TV would turn off, and Isagi would leave his room and head over to Team Z once again. He's hesitant in even bringing up anything about this whole experiment thing, and hesitant at saying anything. He believes that if he was a proper football player, if he was as good as he says he is, he'll be able to figure it out without the enhancements of being a cyborg. He thinks to himself that he needs to push himself as hard as possible and do anything he can for them to win. Yes, this last game doesn't necessarily matter to an extent, but at the same time, it does matter. It really does. He wants to make sure that they win, and he wants to make sure that his place in Blue Lock is stamped and confirmed. And this would be an extremely hard game because they'll be taking on Team V. Team V is made up of some very talented players, but one specifically by the name of Nagi is an absolute prodigy, and it seems that this game is going to be way harder than you could possibly imagine. So they take on, well, Team V, and Team V shows off exactly why they're so good. Because when Isagi tries basically to set up a play and have Bachira help him to more or less get the ball in the hands of Gagamaru for a quick goal, they miss it just by a couple centimeters. And once they miss it by that little tiny bit, well, Nagi's team is able to retaliate and come back and score a goal for themselves, very, very similar to the one that was just shot, in which now they are basically losing for the first time ever, down 1-0. Isagi is looking around the field and he notices that his vision is still there, but it begins to kind of cut in and out. But Isagi thinks to himself that he needs to be able to read the field on his own. He's seen it over and over again through the vision, through his own eyes, through his analyzation. It's in his brain. He just has to let himself go. Let himself go from these restraints. Being this part cybernetic person now, the only way for him to play football, he needs to let go of whatever is restraining him. Let go of all the past and live in the present. Isagi takes the ball up, passing it to Bachira. He would get the ball back himself and begin sprinting down the field as he tries to set up Chigiri for a quick goal. Being that of a long distance runner, Chigiri would get some space from Zantetsu as he would pop the ball up beautifully to Chigiri, as Chigiri would tip it with basically his toe, shooting the ball and scoring. Even the team would notice that Isagi is a step behind from what he usually is, maybe even multiple steps behind from what he normally is. But they don't question it. They watch as Isagi tries to solve his own issue, solve his own problems, and Isagi continues to try and push himself to his absolute limit to do as much as he can for the team. Even goals for himself, he would be wide open in certain circumstances while he cuts across the field, and he would use a direct shot to shoot it right past the goalie. This kick would nowhere near be as strong as it usually is, but it's still has one hell of a spin on it, so it's extremely hard to stop in general. Isagi realizes that he doesn't need the enhancements. That of course they will help, but he doesn't necessarily need them. He can still win. Isagi plays defense as best as he possibly can, reading the field and baiting passes from Reo. And it seems like he begins to actually take advantage of all the weaknesses in favor of his team. Setting up Chigiri, setting up Bachira, and setting up Kunigami for goals that they normally wouldn't get. But Isagi would realize that in terms of fatigue, that he's exhausted. About 75% of the way through the game, he needs to kind of take a back step in terms of what he's doing, and he kind of plays a more conservative position while Bachira and Chigiri kind of take the forefront. Isagi has never shown that he's ever been getting tired or ever can get tired. But in this reality, he has to maintain his energy. It seems like his cybernetics are not helping him. But Jinpachi Ego is watching this, and he's impressed. Someone that doesn't lean on what they've been gifted. It seems like Isagi is showing why he's the perfect person for those cybernetic enhancements to become a cyborg. And the game would eventually finish, and it's a low-scoring one at that. Isagi's team would win, or Team Z would win, but it would be only a couple point margin, being that of about 3-1 game. Everybody would kind of have some sort of respect for each other just with how that game went, and everyone would speak pretty highly of each other about how everyone did. Isagi, though, would walk away and head off to be on his own. And eventually, Jinpachi Ego would call him in once again. He would speak to Jinpachi Ego, but he wouldn't say much. Ego would just say that he's going to have to really show what he's made of in this next selection, in which Isagi nods his head, and Ego would tell him that while his team is doing athletic workouts, that he is going to do something else. And this will be his own little test to see if the cybernetic enhancements can be turned back on or just adjusted to a certain extent. In which Isagi would say that he doesn't need them. In which Ego would be completely shocked and ask why he would say that. And Isagi says that he gave him his legs back. He gave him his arms back, his eyes back, his back back, everything, his body back. He now has the ability to play football. That's all he needs. Ego would slightly laugh at this, but not for the reason you would think. And Ego would say that his cybernetic enhancements are always within himself, but just realize that it's now part of him, now part of Isagi Yoichi, because Isagi Yoichi is a cyborg. He would tell Isagi this and tell him that he didn't lose his cybernetic enhancements. He was thinking of them too much as an outside source, so they disappeared. But now he needs to realize that they're a part of him, that utilization of them is his own, It's his own strength, his own power, his own speed, his own endurance. All of it is his own. The screen would turn off, and it seemed as if Isagi was in complete shock. But the next selection would prove exactly what Jinpachi Ego was saying. Because when Isagi would take on Blue Lock, man, it was obvious that the kicking power, the speed, the endurance, and everything that he once had, well, supposedly once always had, is now back. And Isagi obliterates his way through Blue Lock, man, a holographic goalkeeper, and shows how good he truly is. Jinpachi Ego watches him and watches him closely, and watches as Isagi shows off everything he's capable of and everything he's good at. Isagi Yoichi may be a cyborg, but all of the capabilities and all of the gifts that he was given, well, he had to go through tremendous pain to get them. But now he's been gifted with the most amazing thing he can possibly imagine. And that is the power, the strength, the speed, the endurance, and many more, and much more, to become the greatest football player to ever exist. Now, with that said, that is the end of part 2. And if you enjoyed part 2, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And, well, get ready for part 3, in which will be the finale of What If Isagi Was a Cyborg. And as always, like I said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.